be gentle, but demand it. Be insistent. I also think that it takes 100 years at least to implement a council of the church, and we're only 50 years in. And I always remind people that when you're 2,000 years old, you don't move as quickly as you used to. So there was a question over here, I think.
Yes, thank you, Father. I want to go from a very broad question to a more narrow one, although one quite related to conversation. You talked about this disputation that will occur in sacrament.
Yes.
And you said, when you were describing it, if society has forgotten how to do this, then we must teach them. That implies that there's more in mind than just this one thing. And
no, indeed.
So what have you in mind? Because this might be highly relevant to formation in a certain way.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. In one sense, my purpose at the school, we are a seminary, and so we prepare men and women for men for ordination. Then we're a lay school where we prepare men and women for the academy, for leadership in the church. Very academic model, ours. I think what is necessary is to reestablish means of inquiry. And so what we're going to do is we're going to adapt, and this is the contribution that is Dominican because it is from our own tradition, but of reasoned inquiry. And I wish to show people what that looks like. And then perhaps, and so it really will be a teaching event. And I mean that it not be isolated. And then at the school itself, I think to bring people to the school who have prominence in society and to entertain them in conversation. This, again, now when St. Thomas did this himself, St. Thomas Aquinas, if you have read the Summa, you will see the question that it always begins, there is a thesis, then there are objections to the thesis, then there's a contra, an objection in favor of the thesis, sometimes more than one, then the corpus, and then he answers all the objections. This came from exactly this means of discussion. And so, and what Thomas would do and did do was he took the arguments that opposed the position that he thought the true one and developed them very often further than his opponent had, in order that in answering them he would answer them thoroughly and really get at the truth. It is this manner. Now I believe that our Catholic universities should undertake exactly this sort of work. That this should be a place where this discourse happens. What are the conditions of that? One of them is that there is a serene confidence in the magisterium. There must be that. In other words, and that we are rooted in our own tradition and in that truth. At the same time, there must be an expectation that we are going to see things, perhaps in its application, in the application of tradition, that we've never seen before. The Church has always been, and will always be, creative institutionally. And so I have that expectation also. I don't think that the disputation is going to become common all of a sudden in every university. But I do think that a manner of conversation with the culture is very much necessary. It's also my conviction, this goes a little bit back to the question before too, that the moment that our universities, the Catholic universities, ceased to teach philosophy, a philosophy that would truly root students and organize the curriculum according to a world view that is, if you wish, Catholic. In that moment, our schools ceased to be Catholic in any significant way. And so we're producing new little advertisements for our school. They're little cards. One of them was my own contribution. It says on the one side, what is a blind man walking through a minefield? And then the answer is a theologian without a philosophical background. And so there's a whole program here I have in mind. It's one that I'm actually thinking through right now. How can we best do this? And how can, in that sense, model something and the sort of confidence that we have in the truth of what has been revealed to us and the possibilities that we see for its application.
I just wanted to say something. A couple different things at once. I happen to work for a publishing house
Oh, thank you.
in San Francisco, just like a salesperson.
Oh, okay.
And even though I appreciate it and I understand and actually feel some of that quality of serene confidence in our faith and in the teachings,
Yes.
at the same time, a high degree of prudence is necessary, like
Yes.
in the workplace, because of laws that are in place.
Indeed.
So it's almost like how to witness and how to function, within a certain type of situation that's dangerous in a certain way. Okay, that's my job at my 9-to-5 job, and then also I'm building my own kind of life coaching business on the side, with kind of a spiritual bent to it. And so again, in the process of
How to navigate.
people and stuff like that, how to be authentic and real, at the same time careful because of laws that are in place about how much can actually be said.
Now, was everyone able to hear this? I'll just abbreviate a little bit. But the problem at the workplace, for example, owning the task of the lay woman,
Right.
okay, and a lay professional, how does one function when the laws themselves prohibit the religious conversation very often? Or again, putting together a job as a life coach. What about how can the faith be invoked, I suppose, for the sake of the clients? And this is where I think the secularity so much matters. What our job is, I thank you, I love this question. I think what our job together is to express the revelation, if you wish, through the particularity of our concern for those laws, for that work. How does that function? When we receive the revelation, we're not looking at things that are different from what everyone looks at. As a matter of fact, again, part of our moral insight, our moral imagination is that life really is in common. I love what Chesterton says, by the way, we're all of us in the same boat, and we're all of us seasick. Okay? Life is in common. And the experience, human experience, is in the first instance common. So we're not looking at something different when we look at the world through eyes of faith. We're seeing more deeply. And therefore, I think we can probe more deeply. Now, prudence is certainly necessary. When can this conversation be had or when not? But I think often, especially if others feel safe with you, and that is part of your responsibility, I think. But if they feel safe, then it is sometimes, I think, permissible a little bit to tease. If you really meant to ask me that question, you'd give me enough time to answer it, so you take me to dinner. That sort of thing. Or, when I was a young couple told me the other day, no, this is more my line of work, but told me the other day that they lived together. They didn't see the point in marriage, and so my rejoinder was, what a shame you don't love each other. And I smiled, so I didn't get hit. but it is necessary, I think, and it's an interesting task to take what is revealed to us and to translate it, really, into secular terms. Now, for that we need help. We really do need a conversation. But I think that's the task somehow, right there. And that's why competence in the various disciplines is so very important. How is this translated?